YouTube, and thank you for watching Junkworks DIY Garage. Well, if you didn't know by the title, and you can't tell by what I'm sitting on right now, I was able to get a lift from my garage thanks to YouTube. So thank you, YouTube, first of all. And thank you to my family, because my family helped me put this together, and they did most of the work because I really hurt my back a couple weeks ago, to the point where I'm still going in for an MRI here pretty soon. But beyond that, with a hurt back and my family, I was able to put this together. We were able to put this together, so thanks again to them. And there's little things here and there that are a little bit hard to figure out, but if you just sit down, look at the pictures, figure out the book, watch a few videos, you'll be able to figure it out no problem. And you don't need be a big, giant, strong couple of guys to get it done, although that would help, but you could have, you know, a few fairly weak people putting it together too, obviously, because you'll see in this video how we got it done. At the end of this, I will give you some videos that I went and looked at along the way to try and figure a few things out, so that might help you out too, but I'm not going to give you those until the ends, so that you have to watch mine. I guess unless you fast forward, but don't do that. Alright, well, this is a huge day for my shop. I want to thank Wildfire Lifts, because although I did spend all my own money on this, they helped me out with shipping, so that was cool. In turn for doing the video, they're helping me out with shipping. But if you really think I'd get something like this in my garage and not do a video, or probably several videos coming up on this, I don't know what you're thinking. So regardless, I want to thank them for helping me out with the shipping. I want to thank YouTube and all of my supporters and subscribers. First of all, I gotta say, all the opinions on this lift are my own. Nobody's paid me to say anything good, bad, or otherwise about the lift. So I talked to Mike, the dad, and Brad is the son. It's a father-son owned business. But anyway, talked to the dad, and he was super nice. He told me to get help with the shipping. I needed to talk to his son, so within a couple days his son called me back and we did this. This is the only place I went to, bar none. I did not even ask any other places to, you know, help me with anything, because this is the one I wanted. Whether they would have gave me shipping or not, I would have bought this one. So, and I even told him that, and he still gave me shipping. And that right there shows you the customer service that they give, because he could outright say, well, you know, you don't have that many viewers, you're not, you know, some big thing. And this was before I told him I was even going to pay for the whole thing in advance. So, their customer service, bar none, is amazing. In fact, admittedly, because of COVID, there was some shipping issues going on. And they called me as soon as they found out and said, hey, you know, we're having a few problems. We're going to be a little bit longer than we said. And I thanked him, said, no problem, we're good. I was hoping it'd come before snow, and we got a little bit of snow, but for the most part, we got to stay out of the snow even. So their customer service is awesome. And you're going to probably talk to the dad or the son when you get on the phone, because that's all I've talked to so far. And they always pick up the phone, and every time I've called, they've picked up the phone. I've been real happy with that. Now, as far as the lift is concerned, so far I'm very happy. The build quality looks really good. All the safety mechanisms that you see on the videos and on pictures look quality, look like they're going to work good. So I'm so far very happy. Time will tell if there's any problems with the lift, or if I have any, you know, thises or thatses to talk about the lift, but I promise you, almost every car maintenance video I have will probably be on this lift for some reason. In a couple days. The snow has thankfully melted some, but it's supposed to start kicking down bad tomorrow, so we got to get this thing in here. So we got some boxes out of the weather to make sure they stay dry through the storm there. And the first one I found was the little one here. Then there's the big one there. And there's that one that will remain anonymous till another video. And we got those all in out of the weather. So the first thing you're going to do is open this box up, which will have your instructions. And I will be reading through those and all your parts and pieces. And on top of that, and I don't know if there's one in there, but on top of that was this list right here of what should be inside. So I'm going to go through this. I'm going to check that. And we'll move on. So I'm pretty sure we got everything. Admittedly, I'm not a nut and bolt aficionado. I can't say the word. Aficionado. I don't know. Aficionado. That's probably not the word, but I'm not one of those. Anyhow, so I'm just kind of hoping I know what one they're talking about, counting bolts until they kind of match up to the numbers on here, and it appears that things are all good. So we're gonna go with it. If I have any nuts or bolts or anything I'm missing that I absolutely have to have, most of these, as long as I get the right, bring one of these in, I should be able to get one around here pretty easily. So we're gonna go with it. We're gonna start pulling stuff off the trailer. Pretty much pull everything out from inside on both sides here. Hopefully that came out in video. It's okay, Daco. That's my daughter's dog. Anyhow, but these two last ones here on the bottom are bolted in. Now we got to get these. I'm using a 7/8. I believe it's the metric version of 7/8, which I don't have anything that big. It might be a 22. Is it 22 millimeter?
Yeah, that's what it translates.
It translates to 22 millimeter. I have a 22 millimeter wrench, but no socket. So we're gonna yank just this one here and this one here in the middle. And now my son just realized there's two more on the bottom. Now that you got a good view of my butt, I put the levers in here. This was a little bit harder than I thought it would be. This one I could kind of use that to kind of pull this out and stuff that down in the corner there. This one here was a little bit harder. I actually had to reach in here, pull on this, and stuff that down in there. So be careful with your fingers. So the reason I did that is because that holds these locks out so that they don't get caught in here as we try and pull these down. I'm thinking I also might need to do it on these too. I would assume I am correct. So I'm going to have to pull these out and figure out how. Okay, so that goes like that. So I need to pull that out, put a lock in there as well. So use these here. They fit better in between here. You got to put it so that the V part is facing in, I guess, across the whole thing here. Nope, it's not going to go in this one. Got another one better. But of course I'm explaining it, so it's not going to work. but using these on here worked really good. It does say in the book to use that by hand, but now I can move this back and forth really easy on both sides and put it where we need it. So yet again, up to you what you want to do. Got the tractor in here. This is how I'm doing it. Yet again, you guys got to decide how you're doing it. On both sides here, there's some nuts and bolts that got to come out. I got to take a little bit of pressure here, and then we'll pop those out. That's probably good. If you do that, just do it under your own caution. We didn't undo them all the way. They just a little bit, but this whole thing went gunk like that and came loose. So be careful, because things are definitely moving now more than I wanted to at the time. So I don't know what was going on, but it was definitely kind of stuck on something. It's pretty cold out here, and we've had melting snow that's all melted away, and now it's probably freezing it back on maybe. So anyway, you probably won't need to loosen the bottom ones like I That didn't go exactly as planned, obviously. We got one off. Here's my biggest problem. I do think this is the heaviest one because it's got the piston in it. And it says to hook it up to one side of that, and I think I got the wrong side. I didn't want to unwrap this stuff yet, just for this reasoning. And I'm thinking it must be over here. So I'm going to reset. Hopefully I can move this. Hopefully that other one comes off a little bit better. I definitely don't think my tractor has quite enough oomph. Off the trailer, such as it was. I'd highly recommend not doing it the way I just did it. I had a tractor that could pull the weight, everything I think would have been just fine. It just can't hold the weight. These things are, I think the smaller one's close to 700 and these are bigger. So I'm not positive on the weight, but they got to be close to 1,000 pounds. Anyhow, it's off. I'm happy. Thank you to all my family, because they did all the work, because I hurt my back really bad last week, so this has not been the best time trying to get these off of here. Thank you. So here's the problem I'm having. We need to be able to get underneath this with the cherry picker when we're all said and done and in the garage here. So I'm taking these. I bought the cheap ones. They say they'll hold 1,000 pounds. It'll be yet to be seen whether or not this is going to work. So this is one of those places where if you do anything I do and you hurt yourself, I'm not responsible. If you don't like the way I'm doing it, don't do it. But I'm taking 4x4s so that we can lift it up tall enough and putting the screw in them to screw them down so we're safe. Then when we're all said and done, these here, hopefully they'll be good and safe. And underneath this, but I'm going to show you on that top side, we're going to stick them like that, but it'll be on the bottom of it, and hopefully that'll make it so that we can roll these around in the garage and put them where we need them and be able to get a cherry picker up underneath here. Yet to be seen. Alright, well, here's our problem. First problem out the door. I measured these from here to there and got them pretty close. Problem is this whole thing needs to be at an angle for now, because I'm hitting up here and I can't push this any further towards that wall. So therefore that's going to have to come this way, and this is probably going to have to go that way. But here's my problem. I got this actually hooked up on the other side over there, but the hole for it's here and the hole I need to get to is here. So we're gonna have to move some stuff around until those line up. Anyway, the purpose of this is to tell you, don't be dumb like me. Make sure things are more square than what I had them. So I got the bolts on the other side, or nuts and bolts and washers and everything on the other side. So I'm going to show you on this side kind of how this works. We've got everything pretty much close to where it needs to be. Now you're going to take your big bolts, and through the back here you're going to have your where are we at? So, a hole back here, and you're going to move this around until it lines up, hopefully. And then you're going to have this piece here, and it's got two washer or spacers welded onto it. That's going to go over here. You're going to have to push that in. And here, just like that. And that one, we're going to have to pull that in a little bit, but we'll do that. I'm going to get a nut on here and a nut on here for now. Now that I got my hardware here, we'll take the washer, which yet again you have a flat side and kind of a rounded, smoother side. The smooth side goes out, flat side goes against there. And a lock washer and a nut. If I can use my hand to do that. I'm going to put that one on pretty snug, so I can't do it by hand tighter than that. And then I'm going to just on this side for now
move the thing if I can.
Hold on. I'm going to put a nut on this first, and then we know things aren't going to fall.
Alright.
You just stay there.
You all good?
We're all good.
And now, at least, even if things do kind of fall, they're not going to fall very far, we hope. And I have this held up by the cherry picker. It's not just sitting here in midair, in case you don't know that. So I think we are at least safer than we were a few minutes ago. We got everything sitting flat. We got this whole thing bolted down, not tight, but it is, all the threads are engaged very well. The bolts are in the holes. It's not moving. I will say this tire helped very well at balancing things where we needed it by moving it back and forth a little bit, so you may use something similar to that. And you're definitely going to want a cherry picker. I can't imagine, even with 4 decent sized guys, trying to lift this, move things around, and put bolts in at the same time. So I would say a cherry picker is a must. So the family decided they wanted to try and just put it on the dollies. This dolly had to be further forward than I wanted, but it seems to be working. These cheap little dollies from Harbor Freight barely work. I'm not going to say they're working, but they seem to be working for us. But we still got to get over the mound over there, so we shall see if it holds together till then. Alright, go ahead.
Ready, be very careful. Yep.
Watch fingers and toes. Fingers and toes. So we got this ramp on. It's not completely tightened down, but I got it secure where I'm comfortable it's not going to fall off, all bolted down for the most part. Now something I'm not sure if I should have done this before, but I am going to do it now before I put this ramp on, because I think it'll help these move a little bit more. But we have these right here, and these go in all the corners like that. But we also have these that have the cutouts in them right here, and those ones need to go where the lock is. And I'm not sure. Yep. So this cutout needs to be towards the top, and it needs to be where the lock part is here. So I might need you to
help if you need help.
Yeah. There we go. So you just got to kind of wobble this around a bit. So I'm glad I didn't put the other one in, because with just the one over there in, it is making it so it doesn't want to move quite as much. So probably I would still put one in. Then you can wobble these around and not worry about them hopefully falling over. Yet again, you got to still be careful. Definitely got to wobble this around quite a bit. I'm going to do this on all 4 corners. Alright, YouTube, stop and don't do what I just showed you. I put this block in here upside down, this plastic polymer thing, whatever it is, block, in upside down. And I read the instructions before I ever started, but you know, retention isn't the best, isn't my highest quality. So I have been going along piece by piece, kind of checking things as I go, especially if I'm not exactly sure. But this is one of those places where I just kind of threw them in based on what they look like, and somehow I'm pretty sure I must have flipped them side to side, because I got these in upside down. So I'm going to have to go around to all of them and take one side off here. So we are over here on the opposite side. On the same side as the pump where this one is, but on the other side of the machine, and these need to go in like that. So there you go, now you know. So I should be able to pull this one off, put it over to the other side, put this one in here, the other one on the other side, and go do the same thing on the opposite side here. So I just switch side to side. It's time to put this on right here. We're going to take that, it goes on the side here. There's a threaded hole here. Takes one of the smaller chrome ones. There's a lot of these, so it's the one that's got the most of these. Then you got a washer, flat washer, and a lock washer. So put the flat washer on, or no, put the lock washer on first, then put the washer, then pick up your part, and we'll put this on here. Now I've heard people talking about these going in and hitting things, hitting the side here. So you want to make sure you use all of what they say to use, kind of thing. And hopefully we won't have that problem. Now these don't need completely reefed, just snug. These aren't going to go anywhere, which will keep those from going anywhere as well. So in here we got the pulleys and stuff that are hooked to everything, so it is very difficult to get this in, and the bolts go outwards rather than inwards first of all. So I can reach around in here, but you got it to get to this one anyways. Plus I need to find out where the hole is. To get to this one, there's a bolt or a pulley right here that's got something going through it, a shaft going through it right in this area. So you got to bring the bolt in right in between the pulley and the side of the lift here. So hopefully that makes sense. That's the only way you're going to figure out where it needs to be. And then it's hard to see. I can't look underneath here now and see where the holes are lining up either very well. What I'm going to do is actually put it this way. Alright, so now that I got that hopefully in close to the right spot, I can bring it through and go all the way through. And you can kind of reach in here as well, but there we go. Kind of maneuver things around. So that's there. So we will be coming in that door onto these ramps. Now here's a couple things you can only have your hydraulic control pump either on the what I'm calling the driver's side front, because I'm going to be pulling in this way, so the front of the car will be right here where we're standing. So driver's side front or passenger side rear, which would be over there. Now I know I want it over here because this is where I'm going to be working on the car more, is in the front probably for the most part. So I'm putting my pump here. Now because of that, I know that the side, the ramp that has the hydraulics in it needs to be on this side. If you had it on that one, you'd want the hydraulics on this side. And another thing, obviously, it should be obvious, these have the pockets here and here. Alright, so for your bridge for the hydraulic jack there, or what's I'm not talking about in this video in that box. We'll ride in those grooves right there, or these channels I guess I should call them. Another thing, I left a lot of the packaging on just for trying to keep things as good as I could. There's definitely a few scrapes and bruises on it, but like I've said probably in the past, it's just the first of many to come. These are 15/16 inside and out. You put the bolts through. I think I've showed this in another part of it, but I'm not sure. Put the bolts through from the inside out. Put this on, then put your washer, your lock washer, and your nut on. Now, when you're putting these on, do those all by hand. I tighten them, not cranked on them, but I did tighten them pretty good just to make sure things weren't moving around. So just don't forget this. I forgot this like on one of them, just not thinking, and then you got to take everything apart and it's a pain in the butt. So don't forget this part. But then it is a 15/16 And I'm just running them down as hard as I can with this impact, which might be a little bit too hard. I don't know. I do not see that I could see in reading, or my wife could see in reading, because sometimes I miss things. So I had her check it out, but I didn't see any torque specs on this. So I'm going with tight. Now, this is where you get to choose what you want to do. And I'm not responsible if you do what I do and something goes bad. Now I got these all tight on all four sides. I'm actually going to come back with and check this with my 1/2 inch socket wrench by hand, just to make sure that, you know, I didn't run out of battery a little bit and end up with something a little loose. Oh yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So considering I'm going to nut and bolt this whole thing, including the stuff they've done. If there's a nut and bolt that they put, like with these, I'm going to check all those and make sure they're all snug and tight the way I think they need to be anyway. And check these one more time after I've ran the lift up and down a couple times. Basically, like nutting and bolting a car, I'm going to nut and bolt this thing. And I'm going to do that probably every so often just to make sure things are staying where they need to be for safety. So that is something you probably want to try to do once in a while. And I would definitely do once you've ran it up and down a couple times and move things around. Go through and check everything. Make sure it's tight. All right, so now it's time to put these caps up here. So you're going to get, at least I got, 2 of these that have holes in them right here. And one goes on where I'm going to put my pump. The other one goes on the other side where you could also put the pump. So you got to make sure that these go with the holes where the pump goes. Also, the hole is facing in towards the lift, inside the lift. Cables are kind of hanging out underneath here. Yet another reason why I kept the wrap on this one as long as I could, because I knew there was going to be cables in here that would hang down from other videos I watched. And I think that did help to just kind of keep these out of the way. But now it's time that we need them. So they are all tied together with zip ties here. So you're going to want to carefully undo those. And when I'm done doing that, there we go, I will go to the next part. So I'm going to go through and find all the zip ties. They're zip tying this all up, unzip tie them and let them hang down. Watch out, because you do have your hydraulics under here, and you don't want to be hitting any of those or cutting into any of those. First thing I've noticed in the instructions here that is a little bit off is this does say page 26 to learn the cable running, and to be sure I went there, and 26 is hydraulics. So actually I think they transposed that 6 a little bit or turned it upside down, because it's actually 29, at least in my book, where it shows the way the cables should run. So I'm going to take a look at those, make sure my cables run correctly. Alright, so you're going to have cables with the nuts and bolts, or with the nuts on them, on the ends, and they're gonna go directly out the corners. This one goes over the pulley here and out this corner. That one's gonna go over the pulley and out that where the light is right there. And we're just gonna shove those right on through and just go right up in there, and that you can see it coming out the other side. And one of the big things, they could fall off the pulleys down here. So when we're all said and done, before we move anything, we're going to make sure everything's running on the proper pulleys here. This one here, something I saw somebody say, is if you actually wind it back over itself and push it through that hole. We got it out the hole here, but it's a little bit stuck. All right, and then I guess you pull it out here, bang. Comes out just like that. Did you get that? Okay, and then this one, same thing. We're just gonna pull it out and it's gonna go over to that side over there. So now we're over on the other side. I'm gonna bring this, it's gonna go all the way through. Now, we're gonna bring that all the way through and it's gonna go onto the cables over here. But right now, as you can see, it's too short. We're gonna go run the other ones on the other side the same exact way as I just ran this one. And then I'll show you what's on this side. There's quite a few more pulleys on the opposite side of where my pump is gonna be on the upright there. So the big thing here, I can see maybe having problems because I almost did it actually on this side, is this was hanging down like this. And had I gone up over the top of this, it would get bound. Same thing here. So I had to go underneath this one and out the corner. Same thing here. These are all hanging here. If you end up going over the top somehow, bad things could happen. So you want to make sure you're going under that one, through, and straight up. Now, I have turned around from those pulleys that I just showed you, and right here is the end of that cylinder. And for all these cables to go where they need to go up those poles, that cylinder has got to come forward. And quite honestly, I've seen a couple ways on how to do this. One is just by pulling. People seem to have problems doing that. So I'm going to first start out by trying to pull it. Another way is by, I saw somebody use like a come along and actually pull it out, which actually seemed like a pretty good idea. But quite honestly, I'm pulling on this right now. I'm on the opposite side yet again of where I started. I'm on next to the door here where I'm driving in at. So my pump is on that corner over there where where the hydraulic pump is going to be, is on that corner right there. So I'm taking this right here that goes across, that we ran across and goes to the other one, and I'm just pulling on this, and it's pulling the cylinder. So I'm pulling on that, and right now I'm not even have gloves on. I should put some gloves on, which I may do next, but as you can see, it's pulling just fine. So that's what I'm gonna do, and you can choose how you want to do it. I have seen another way where people actually put air into it, into where the hydraulics go in at, and push it out that way. So you guys can choose what you want. I'm gonna keep doing this, but I am gonna. So now I pulled this out long enough. You can see where this is gonna actually go around this and over the top of this, but I still haven't got these quite as far as I need them to be. So now that I got a good purchase and I can stand up, I'm going to pull on this now. And just a little bit at a time. And I'm just going to pull it all the way out until I should be able to bring it all the way up. So I think I'll be able to go on all four corners now, and I'll have enough slack to be able to do this. Our cable, it's long enough to go where we want it to go. I'm going to pull these off. First, you're going to run this up through, then washer, then the two nuts. They have it nut, washer, and nut because they don't want the washer going flying, but when you get it up through the top, I'll have my son show you, but you put the washer on first, then the nut, then the second nut. So I'm going to hand this up to him. He needs to hold on up through here. And go around here. So around this and over this. Make sure you get this right, because if you don't, it's either not going to work and or could kill you. And then we're going to keep tension on that. He's going to pull that up, and it doesn't need to go that far, so we're going to have plenty of tension here. We're going to have to make sure that these down here end up right. Go ahead and put the washer. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of slack right here, so really I could have put that up there and later on done this part, but I am going to just kind of run it there. But we're going to go back and we're going to double check every single pulley before we move anything to make sure that this cable is running correctly on every pulley on this machine. I went to pull on the cables on the other side and they did not want to go, So I came up under here to figure out what was going on, and I noticed this has been caught here a little bit. It didn't want to roll, so you got to kind of feed this over. And then the same thing with this one here. It didn't want to go. It's just not at a good angle for it, I'm assuming. And so now we're going to put this piece on that holds the, they call it a power unit, the hydraulic motor is what I've been calling it, I think, all night. Something to do with hydraulics. It's for the hydraulics anyway, but they are calling it a power unit. So we're going to go ahead and put that on. And what you need is this right here. There's 4 of these. They're the black ones, the bigger ones, and these ones take a 6mm Allen. The smaller chrome ones that I've been using to hold in those sliders is, what is it? A 5mm Allen wrench. So, hand snug in there. You need to take a couple of the big washers from your packaging, so don't make sure you keep a couple of these. I wouldn't throw any of this stuff away. It's good nuts and bolts and washers, but a couple of the washers that they have from that kit, because they're not in with this stuff, and they actually go into the front of underneath that part right there. Alright, so we got that all snugged down and the washers are in there. Not sure exactly what those are for, but it says to do it in the book, so we have this here. This goes on the pump side. The part with the red handle goes on the pump side, wherever your pump's going to be hanging or your motor's going to be hanging. Then we got to take the nut off the end of that, which is a little bit not wanting to come. There we go. Take that off. We'll stick that there for now. It also has this on here. We'll leave that on, and we're going to stick this into here. And then we're going to take the nut on this side over here, and it says to run it all the way up to the end of the threads. Put that all the way back. Now we're going to run this into here, and somewhere underneath here there is a black rod. Now if you have the plain 9000, then it's, I guess, easier to find. But I have the XLT here, so there's little windows here and there and everywhere. Not sure exactly, I haven't quite gotten under there and found them. That'll help you maneuver that rod so that you can hook it to the end of this. And it just has a something those threads. I ran out of film, I noticed on the other side there, so at the end I was talking about inside here is a rod that these all threads here now screw into the rod that's inside the lift here. So we got the same thing on this side, only without the handle. You have the spacer here, it stays on there, you go through here, and we're going to screw the nut back on all the way up till it bottoms out on the threads. And we're going to shove that in, and same thing, it's going to go into something in here, and we're going to thread it into it. There's the red handle right there, and we are underneath here, and if you come out, right there is a hole. So right here is the black rod sitting here, and it was actually pushed back in here, and there's something that's keeping it from coming this way. So while I was sticking my finger in there lifting on this rod, my son was right here with his finger in that hole. So my son was in this hole lifting up on the rod and pushing it towards me. And then I'm sure down there's another hole similar to the one that was over there where I need to hook that will be hooking up underneath here in the hole. We got the black rod here, we got the safety lever here, and that is gonna have to hook into that somehow here, and for some reason I cannot get this to go down enough to line up with that. So it's a very okay. Is that all the way in? Okay, try turning it. So I got my son like sitting there turning this. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Is it turning?
Yeah.
Go ahead and turn it if you can. Alright, so that's actually threading in there now. Well, I'm getting ready to start doing this stuff here. And so I'm reading through the whole instructions. And I'm glad I went all the way through to the end and read, because here at the end it says make sure that the unit is sitting on the main locks and not the secondary locks. And so I went and looked, and I realized if I look down underneath here, there's a gap under that main lock right there, which means it's sitting on this. And as you can see, here, I can't push this, move this anywhere. Now if you come over here to this one, this is how it should look. I can move that, and there is no gap underneath there. So what I'm going to have to do, first of all, you guys make sure that when you set these up and you put your locks in, make sure you're setting on these locks and not these locks. Unfortunately, that's the only one that's correct. All the rest of them are need to come down a little bit. This is where the instructions get a little bit vague on this stuff here. There's a lot of adjustability in these heim joints, first of all. But my problem, it tells you about this pretty good. But my problem is how far to thread this in. I'm not quite understanding this. It says it just needs to be threaded in here. Then kind of, you know, hook all this stuff up where you want it. And then go over and do that side and make sure that side's threaded in really well. But quite honestly, right now, I don't feel like I have enough threads on this side that I'm comfortable with. So I'm just gonna put this in there a ways, and if I have to readjust things down the road, I'll worry about it at that moment in time. And it also shows to do this one first, I believe, because then you'll be able to kind of shove this in, get these where you want them, and you don't have to take this out. So it talks about later on using a vice grip on the rod that's underneath the platform here. So I went ahead and put a vice grip on that just so I could turn this where I kind of needed it without having that move too much. So I'm going to tighten that in there a bit and then push it in for now. I feel now I have enough threads on here that I feel comfortable. We'll see when I go to the other end how many I have over there and how that works. Then we're putting this, pushing it all the way in. Well, my mommy came in and talked to me, so I had to shut it off there for a minute. I'm not sure exactly where I was, but I believe I pushed this in, so I'm comfortable with the amount of threads for now that this is in there. And it really just does not say how deeply threaded it needs to be. And if you look at this picture up here, there's mostly threads there, and I'd probably want more than that attached personally, in my opinion. But that's, I'm not an engineer. We'll put that right out there. I am no engineer. So there's that. Now I'm going to put this at 1 o'clock position, so going this direction. We're going to get this where this can attach to that. I'm probably going to have to adjust all these heim joints here, because I want to make sure. I'm going to go all the way out, see how many threads are on this thing, because it may be I'll want to, there's quite a few threads there. I'm going to actually go loosen, check the one down there and see how deep that one is. I'm going to make this rod where I'm comfortable on both sides, that I have enough threads, or as many threads as I can on both sides. Alright, hopefully you can see this a little better here. I'll put this up there. And we're going to take these off of here. And it's a nut and a lock washer on this side, and then your bolt with the lock washer on this side. And I believe these have threads in them. So yep, lock washer and nut on this side. So I just realized if I go and tighten all this stuff up, tighten all this up where I have it, I will not be able to tighten this up, because the nut right here is actually riding right on this lock right here, the safety lock. And so I'm going to have to make sure all this stuff is tightened where it needs to be, and then come back and do all this up first. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm assuming on the other side I'll have to tighten all that up, put it where it needs to be first, and then come back and put this one into here. Now we are on the other side here where this one is, and it's sticking out quite a ways, so I do maybe wish I would have tightened that one up a little bit more over there, but I think we're good. I will test it and see if I'm happy with it. But this one's got to go in quite a ways, but before we can do that, we got to remove this nut and washer and stuff over here on this side of the ramp. Or not ramp, I keep calling it a ramp, it's a runway. So now I got the nut off, we'll pull these off of here. And you want to push this back just enough to where this should fall and get out of the way, but I don't know, that might be so tight it's not going to. Ah, we can get it out of the way. Alright, now we'll pull this out of the way and we're going to run this in until it bottoms out. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? So I have the vice grip on the other side over there holding the rod that goes through the whole platform there, the whole runway. I'm going to go ahead and loosen that up, and I'm actually going to run it that way a little bit. Once I get the threads where I think I want them on this side, and then run it the rest of the way that way, and try and even up the amount of threads that are on both sides where it hooks into this rod that's underneath the runway. I'm not going to show you that on camera because that's going to be going back and forth, adjusting, looking at threads and all that kind of stuff. But that's I'm sure that's kind of what they have an idea to do. It really, from what I can get out of the book, admittedly I have dyslexia, so I tend to do things backwards sometimes. But regardless, I have trouble reading, so. But from what I'm getting out of this, I don't see anything that says that, but I think that would be a very good idea at this point. Now that you got the other end where you want it and adjusted, now you should be able to turn that rod underneath there and adjust the threads back and forth for the rod that hooks to these two things. Hopefully that works, or that comes out right. But I'm going to go under there and do that right now, get that adjusted where I want it, where I'm comfortable with it. You need to do the same. Go underneath there to that across the rod that goes across here, across the runway, and on the end of that there's actually a 3/4 inch or 19 millimeter, which this says to use 19 millimeter, and where 19 millimeter is used you can use a 3/4 inch. But anyways, on the end of that there's a nut that I was able to use this and just kind of turn the rod at a, turn a little bit and then go upside down and turn it, and then turn it around and turn it, quarter turn at a time or so, until I got it where it's pretty darn even between the two as far as threads. Now we can thread this all the way in, I think. It seems to be doing so. And we want this right about there, so we're going to back it off a little bit and go to right about there. There's a little bit of space, but I think that's pretty darn good. So that's about where I want this at. I'm going to be up here with this and probably doing this. So now, and once again we're going to get that in a position. I'm also going to once again pull this all the way out, and you're going to do exactly the same thing on this side that I did on the other side. Make sure you have enough threads on each one of these on both sides that you're comfortable with. Same with here, and then all the nuts and bolts you're going to go over and get them good and snug. Below the runway here, where these hook in, you're going to have the black rod that goes across, and then there's the nut that was on the end of this. It's just a jam nut to jam against that. So you're going to grab your, these are my second biggest vice grips in this set. The bigger one actually didn't fit very well, so this one actually fit pretty good. You're going to clamp this onto the black rod that goes into the under the runway, and then I used a 3/4 or 19 millimeter to tighten that jam nut up to that black rod. There's a pretty good picture in the instructions, which you should be reading along with this anyway, so I'm not going to show that to you. I kind of gave you a decent look underneath when we were threading this in, but it's just too hard to film. Now there's that right there, the two nuts and the washer, and that's sticking up about an inch above the two So we're going to go through, we did them all, tighten them to where there's about an inch of thread sticking them up above each one of them. And that's where I'm going to have it right now. When I get this exactly where I want it in the garage, then that's when we're going to go around and we'll have to do a little bit of adjusting on everything. We're going to try this. I don't know if it'll work, but instead of trying to put the bolts and that stuff from this way, I'm going to have these sitting here like this with my son hold them on the other side. I'm going to lift up the motor and try and get it on these two, have him put some washers and nuts on so it'll stay there and hold it. And then we can deal with this side over here. And in that case, the only time I'm actually lifting is until I get it engaged onto there. We'll see how it goes. That went fairly well. Go ahead and hold on to that. You hold the rest. Bring that over. I think that went very well. I would recommend doing it this way, but it's all up to you. And the other upside is you think, well, you might scratch yourself. Actually, I could see accidentally coming back here somehow and scratching myself more so by doing it the other way. So yet again, put your nut through. You got your flat washer, your lock washer, and your nut. I think all in all that went very well. Once I got it on there with him holding that, it was very easy just to kind of sit here until he got it snugged down a little bit. I could let go, get these in. I think it went well, so I would recommend doing it that way. I didn't really read in the book or could tell. It's kind of, the book has good pictures. I will say that the writing is a little vague. People haven't actually showed how to anchor this on. So you are supposed to use either AW 32 or ISO 32. I told my wife that and said, hey, can you order me up? It's 2.6 gallons or 10.5 quarts is what you're going to need. So she found this on Amazon. Don't know how much it was. If I can get her to find a price for me, I'll put it below. But I know nothing about this oil, this fluid, or anything. I don't know, good, bad, or otherwise. It was a decent price for what we needed, and it says AWISO 32. So it's got them both in there. So hopefully I am correct that it should work. I'm going to start dumping these in, and it said 1 inch below this line below the filler cap, which is, there's a max line right there that's about 1 inch below the filler cap. So this is the post my pump is on right here, and underneath the runway, keep wanting to call it a ramp here, seems to be what everybody wants to call it, so maybe we should all decide to just call it a ramp, but we're going to call it a runway because that's what they call it. This is for your hydraulics. It has a nut on it that you got to pop off. Now I think that said 19 millimeter for something here. So these two are 19 millimeter or 3/4 if you're American. And then crescent wrench, because I have no idea what this size is, and it actually says to use a crescent wrench. So I'm going with what's in the book for this one. I don't necessarily like crescent wrenches very much. It also says to make sure that these are snug, so I got to go get another 3/4. So we got these here. I got 3/4 there, 3/4 there, and I'm just snugging them pretty good. They were pretty close, but it definitely took a little bit more. And then in the side of the runway here, there is a hole, which you want to make sure we're not, you know, going over any lines or anything like that. So we got that sticking out there now. We're going to take the jam nut here and hopefully get this on here. Okay, now I'm going to go down underneath the runway here, and I'm going to check and make sure all that the lines are on the pulleys they need to be on underneath there. I'm going to check and make sure that this isn't messed with anything, hasn't got caught around anything. This end goes on the ramp, not on the ramp. This end goes on the runway, and this end that's got the bend in it, the 90 in it, goes on your pump. And these do not need Teflon tape. The type of fitting these are, they should be good without any kind of tapes or pipe dope or any of that. Okay, I don't like the way that's going on there, so make sure you do not cross thread them, or you will wind up with something to keep them from leaking or buying a new one. Okay, and then where this hooks underneath the runway here to the actual hydraulic unit, I did check that as well to make sure that was tight, and it was tight, but you still want to probably double check that. And then I'm going to back a couple threads off here. This does seem like it'll move quite a bit even with it tight, I think. But I'm just going to back a couple threads off here. Yeah, I got this pretty much, you know, hand tight, and then back it off a couple threads just to kind of hold it there. And then we're going to take this, and I'll meet you by the pump. Same thing with this side, has a little red cap that I'll be keeping, which will go, it talks about, I don't remember what the degrees were, to be honest. I think they said like 5 o'clock position, so back towards the machine. And it's got the same kind of deal where it's got a cone in here and a cone here. They just hook into each other. You shouldn't need Teflon tape or any pipe dope or anything like that. It's messing up. The actual part that's hooked into the machine here, that's got an O-ring on it. Whoa! Okay, good, that landed well. It didn't land on its tip. Set that aside. So we are going to snug this right here is turning. We are going to snug that. So I'm going to check all these as well and make sure things don't need snugged up a little bit. You got to be real careful with this one. O-rings, they'll bite you. You do not tighten those until they're tight. You tighten those until the O-ring squishes a little bit. That's all you need. And that also appears like it is either a 19 millimeter or 3/4 maybe. Yep. So it's also a very large wrench, so you do not need a lot. Like, I'm going to put this on and I'm going to pay attention to the O-ring. That's probably enough right there. It's starting to kind of squish out a little bit on each side. I can always tighten it more if I notice problems. So I'm sticking my thumb here, holding down on this wrench and turning on this wrench. Just yet again snug. I can always tighten more. I'm gonna just a little bit more on that because it did kind of back off. Now I'm going to go to the runway as well, tighten that one or snug that one down as well. So we got our hose here. It's just flapping in the wind, and we don't want this. And something that you can kind of see, and you can't really see this particular part in pictures, but you can tell it's been done in the pictures. And it's definitely not in the book, but I've also seen other people do it on their videos, but I've seen them put it in different areas. And the one I saw, what seemed the best to me, is it comes with this little doodad thingamajig holder here. This rides up and down with the ramp. So if you put a little bit of slack in it, put this around here and hook this right here to this, it should stay out of the way. Warning on this one, definitely keep an eye on this that it doesn't move. And your first few times up and down, check and see how this is slacking, how things are moving, because based on how this moves up and down could actually loosen up some of your fittings if it's twisting. So I'm going to take this and go ahead and put this here right now. I am a little bit worried about it getting caught in here, so I'm going to pay attention to that as well. And that is the next thing I'm going to talk about. And actually by now you should have put these covers on here. And this is not for this side, this is for the other side. But these covers go over the cables and pulleys and all that. I'm not going to put these on until I've ran this and make sure everything is where I want it. You choose to do what you want to do, what you think is safe. So I've checked everything, it's all tight and right. So now it is time to finally start lifting this thing. Unfortunately, my shop is not quite big enough to put a camera anywhere where you can see a large amount. And it's too dang cold to put you out the door right now. So hopefully you'll be able to see all this. I am going to now, from what little I found on bleeding this systems, lift this all the way up. We're going to all stay out from underneath it and away from it in case anything happens. And so I'm going to lift it all the way up, going to move all the stuff out from underneath it, and then let it go back all the way down to the ground. That is the plan that should empty the air out of this system. And this may take a while, so some of it may be in fast forward. I'm going to give this a second to relax. I really don't know what the runtime of this motor is, and I do know that I don't want to burn it up and overheat it. So I'm going to give it a little bit, give it 30 seconds or so, and go again here. Alright, we are going up. So now we got this thing all the way up, but we got a problem because we need to bring it down to get the air out of it, and that right there is too tall. So what I got is this, I don't know, I think I got it at a Rita garage sale, and it's an old golf club that somebody, I think it was used to hang clothes up high. So I got that. We're gonna see if I can reach up there and let this down. Oh! I blew a fuse. This is something that tends to be something that has a problem with this system, is it just takes a little bit too much oomph. I got it up there with no problem, but I gotta go hit my fuse and we'll hopefully start again here. So I've turned off a couple lights behind us that are on the same circuit, and hopefully that'll do the trick. We'll see. I have to go up so that I can release this to let it back down. I don't know how much I have to go. That's not quite far enough. So right there is probably right at the minimum. I can see the lock over there. So we're going to do that. I'm pulling on this. Actually got to pull this way. And pulling on that, pushing on the lever here, which should bring it on down. And because there's no weight on it, I will probably be fast forwarding through this as well. Definitely gonna have to move this over a little bit. It's not. Nope, it's not. Okay, my son caught something that right, well, let's see. Passenger left is not working, so I gotta go up here. I didn't get it pulled hard enough here. So now we really got to watch. I'm going to have to go check my pulleys again. Okay, so that's all the way up. I might not have pushed it up high enough because, yet again, like I said, I think it's really close, but I am going to have to do some adjustments. There we go. I can feel the difference now. Now, we should, everybody keep an eye on pulleys. If you see any looseness, I am definitely hitting over here. I'm going to have to really move that over that way. Keeping an eye on my hydraulic hose as we come down here. Right now everything seems to be good. Now I can pull on this by hand and push on this right here. So I have figured out I am going to actually move this lever over here, which will probably be in another video. I'm going to do some update videos fairly soon of a few things like adjusting this thing, because I don't see a lot of videos on that, and maybe doing a little bit of moving it around and those kind of things. Well, YouTube, unfortunately right there, I think towards the end as I was bringing this down and getting all the air out of the fluid, or out of the cylinder here actually, my camera ran out of battery. So I don't know if there at the end you saw it. Once I got to the last probably 6 inches, everything started bubbling up inside my fluid chamber here, and aerated it pretty good. I have seen that that's kind of what happens, so you gotta let that sit now. Don't just go start using your lift right away. Let that sit overnight, get the air out of it, that way you don't aerate your machine. Makes sense anyways to me, so that's what I'm going to do. A couple other things, because this video is getting so long and I pretty much did my pickup and delivery, pickup, brought it here, put everything together, got it to this point. It is pretty well done, minus, I will say, put these on before you really start using it. These are the covers that go over the pulleys and things like that. Like I said, I want to lift this up and down 2 or 3 times before I put these on, just to watch things, keep an eye on things, and make sure everything's running the way it should be and smoothly. I also know that I'm going to have some adjustments I need to do to level things out a little bit. Something else I will say, in case you haven't already looked into these, it does come with 3 of these, I believe 3. 1, 2, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, yeah. 3 of these trays that go across here like this. That you can put wherever if your rig is leaking and you want to park something underneath it. They're the drip trays. And I already showed you putting on the bottle jack bridge as well. I did see in one of the videos that they said that didn't come with it. It came with mine. What didn't come is what's in the box, which will yet again be another video. So keep an eye out here fairly soon. I got a couple other projects I need to do before I get back to this, at least to the point where I'm using it well enough to film it. I am going to do an adjustment video on leveling this out. I'm going to do, it also came with the casters or the wheels to roll this around, the whole thing around, which I definitely need to move it around. I'm definitely too far that way. Anyways, so I'll be doing a video on putting those on and rolling this thing around, adjusting it, probably pulling these out and putting them together and showing you a few things along with what's in the box. I also will probably be putting these on video at some point or another, and just doing little things that I may have forgotten or not thought of while doing this video, things. Also, at the end, I said I would promise you that I would tell you a few other videos that I watched, and I need to go get those names. Okay, I went in and got some names here. First of all, I did watch other videos than this, and these were just the most, I guess, closest to detailed videos, I would say. The first one I actually saw this on that made me really start looking at this was the Auto Resto mod. So shout out to them. I will say on their video, there's definitely a couple, they go through it a little bit quicker. One thing that seemed safety-wise, and I'm not calling anybody out, I'm not getting on anybody for doing something that's wrong. People do things the way they feel like they need to do them for their safety. That's their deal. But something that I noticed was actually a safety issue that they did is underneath here, underneath the runway, they put the spacer that's supposed to be on the outside of the lever there, in between the jam nut and the bar that goes across the runway. I do think, because I kind of paid attention after that, really looking, that they caught that, but it's not in the video. I do think later on you kind of see that spacer out there. So, and I'm not saying they're doing anything that, you know, they weren't, you know, not showing something. They probably it just didn't get edited in there. So that's something, if you watch their video, don't do that. And something else I noticed on the Auto Resto mod one was the nuts and bolts that go on the ends of the ramps here. They are supposed to go from inside out with the washers, lock washers, and nuts on the outside part, according to the book. Honestly, I don't think that will make a huge difference on the safety nor on how things work, as far as I know, but it is something I noticed as far as what it says to do in the book compared to what they do. Misty One, he has a really good video if you're going to do it yourself of what it might take to do it yourself. I can't imagine trying to do this by yourself. You definitely have to have a huge garage like he does, as well as lots of different machines like he does to be able to do that. I will say on his video, yet again, to each their own, on the tops of the uprights here, he put a nut underneath and a nut on washer and nut on top, and that's incorrect. It just is. Both nuts are supposed to be on top, washer, nut, then another nut, all on top of these upright posts. And I actually did put comments in their video, so hopefully they read them. And if they're watching this, I mean no hard feelings. I'm not knocking you. I'm just stating things that I noticed. And that brings me up to, if you see something that I did wrong in this video, please tell me. I mean, this is my safety. I'll probably be in here most of the time by myself underneath this thing, admittedly. And otherwise, my kids will be under here, which I'm even more worried about them. So if there's any safety problem you notice in this video that I didn't either correct, if I did something that I know I did wrong, I showed it on this video, similar to the only thing I really know I did wrong and didn't correct right away was the slider pieces, those plastic corner slider pieces. I had flipped those upside down, but I do show you that in the video. So, but if you see anything else, please comment below. I have no hard feelings to anybody that's trying to help me out safety wise. Another one I saw was Solar Garage. It's a fairly recent video, at least as of when I put this out. He had a few issues here and there, but most of it seemed like it went together right. You know, it's another one of those. But he was very detailed on running things and showing some things, so his videos helped me a bit in some ways as well. He was a little bit more behind the scenes, kind of similar to what I do, which also makes for long videos. But those are the three, anyway, that I watched. That the Misty One and Auto Resto mod are pretty much one of the bigger reasons why I bought this lift. As far as I watched them over and over, and I really paid attention to things, and I looked at the quality. And I will say, Bart, here's the deal about this lift. It is probably not a lift that is a using it every day professional garage lift, but it's also not the price of one of those, but it's way better and real close to a use it every day professional garage lift. I could see professional garages using these. I really could. If you take a look at these, I would use this in a professional garage personally, but you know, to each their own. But it's way better than those C-channel ones that you see that are homeowner versions. The only thing that's downside about this is it is large. And I even got the XLT, which is even larger. There is a smaller version, but it's, you know, a little bit skinnier and a little bit shorter. But I should be able to get my truck on this. I weighed my truck, and it had some, even with all the stuff I had behind the seat, a couple things in the back of the bed, and it was at 7,200 pounds. So this will go up to 9,000 pounds, 7,200, it should take it. I am very much pushing how far out that way. My tires may stick out a little bit on each side, but I got wide tires on that truck. And I'm going to be right up to one end and right up to the other. So we'll see. I'm really hoping my truck will work on here, but we shall see. At the very least, I'll be able to pull my truck up on here and use some of the things, even if I have to crawl underneath it a little bit. But I think it'll work. We'll see. One of these days you'll see my truck on here. Honestly, it's not going to be the first thing I pull on here. I will probably pull my Jeep, will probably be the first thing I'm going to pull on here. So I will have videos on that as well, because I definitely have some stuff coming up on that. I probably ought to end this because I'm sure this video has gone way too long. I know there's a few things and doodads that I need to put on and do, but like I said, those will come in another video too, once I get things adjusted and figured out, and that'll just be another video because this is going to. So thanks for watching Junkworks DIY Garage, where I'm proud to say I'm a jack of all and I'm master of none. You all have a good one.